Ladies and gentlemen, it's 7 o'clock. We'll call our meeting to order. I'm going to invite up Dwayne Flood from our Graham Police Department. He's going to do our invocation. Dwayne, if you would, please. Thank you for being here, sir.
All right, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we first off want to thank you for another beautiful day outside and another beautiful day for us all to come together this evening. And Lord, this week being the 4th of July week, we have a lot of friends, family, and citizens of Graham that are traveling this week. We ask you to be with them on their journeys and bring them back home safe. And Lord, for tonight as we go into this meeting, Lord, we ask you to grant guidance and wisdom to the council tonight as they consider the matters before them and do the right thing going forward that's going to affect all of us as citizens in the city of Graham. Be with each one of us, go through our day and go throughout our week. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Thank you, Alta. I appreciate it. Would you please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Graham City Council. We appreciate everybody being here tonight. Rest assured that everybody wants to speak will have an opportunity to do so. The first thing we're going to do is our consent agenda. A is approval of minutes, June the 4th. B is approved request of Daniel and Max Deering to close West Elm Street and provide a certificate of liability, submit a temporary outdoor sales, and schedule public safety personnel following the extra duty solutions process. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull number B, please.
Anyone else?
Letter B.
Then I need a motion to approve A of the consent agenda.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll go to B, approve request by Daniel Alvis and Max Deering. And Melody, you have concerns?
I would just like to know, is there anyone here representing that group? Okay, great. We would love to know a little bit more information about that event and exactly what you're going to do. The other questions are also, have you contacted Roasted Coffee? Have you allowed the museum that information? They are also open on Saturday. So since you're closing that parking lot, Mary, the other concern we have is that the last time there was an event back there in that parking lot, it was the Recreation and Park staff was picking up cigarette butts for days.
Correct.
Okay, so we need to get that cleaned up.
Sure.
If you would, let us have your name and address, please.
Sure.
Thank you, Mary.
Mary Fawcett, 1697 Challenge Drive. Mayor, Council, I just wanted to do a little bit of a lead-in about the event, give you a background. This is the first time the event will take place in Graham. Myself, as well as other city staff, have met with both Max and Daniel to discuss previous concerns. And they have reassured me that that will not happen, that they have worked very diligently of keeping the back cleaned up. They understand for their patrons too, that they want to keep it nice and neat. And as you see in your packet, the request is for the parking lot to be closed Friday, September 25th, 6 p.m. through Saturday, September 26th, 11 p.m. because one of the unique facets of this event is a barbecue cook-off. So I'll turn it over to Max and Daniel, and they can give you some more of the details.
Max, if you would give us your name and address, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Max Deering, 212 Judge Sharp Road, Graham, North Carolina, 27253.
Thank you, sir. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Sorry, a little nervous. Never spoken
Don't be
before the
nervous.
City Council.
We're all your neighbors.
Rockin' for Research is a fundraiser for the Amaranth Diabetes Foundation. It's a Masonic organization that that's their sole philanthropic project. And we're trying to make this a bit of a win-win-win so that the citizens of Graham can enjoy some wonderful music supplied by the great talent that's here in Alamance County. We'll be bringing, hopefully, folks in to enjoy the festivities with a craft fair, and as Daniel and Mary had mentioned, the cook-off. And we're hoping that it will include about 20 bands, 18 to 20 bands. We will have everything from country to a little bit of rock, and we actually do have a wonderful ska band that's coming in, so folks will be able to dance to just about anything and everything that they want to dance to. It will be, my co-sponsors will be Maple Street Tavern, Beerco, and The Verdict. So we're hoping to actually include, and definitely want to include, the Graham Museum. I'm hoping that we'll be able to have that open for the event, because we do expect to have some folks coming from out of town. I'm sorry?
That you've met before?
Yes, I have met with the Coffee Depot, and I don't think we're going to be impacting him except positively, because we will have craft vendors that will be coming in and setting up approximately 8 a.m. So I'm sure that there will be a good amount of traffic that will be looking for coffee that morning. So hopefully it'll be a positive impact for him. I understand that the trash was a concern before. I am definitely working with my volunteers to be sure that that is something that we're going to address one way or the other. If we've got to rent a vacuum cleaner or one of the street cleaner things to come out and get it, we will make sure that the parking lot is clean.
Would you and Daniel mind answering questions if the council
Absolutely.
has any? Griffin, would you have a question?
No questions.
Okay.
No questions.
Lee?
I do have a question, Mayor, but it's probably directed towards Mary.
Okay.
And that is, this is the first time that I've seen this on a request, and this is kind of interesting. So can you explain to us what the extra duty solution scheduling is?
Sure. And
Very good.
Flood is here too, if I misspeak. This is new to the city of Graham, but it's a much more concise and streamlined process for when residents or downtown businesses want to have an event downtown. It's a one-stop shop. They call, they explain the components of the events, and then Extra Duty Solutions works with the city of Graham to book our officers.
Wow, so this is a private entity that does
That is
this?
correct. No charge to the city.
Okay.
It's turnkey. It's all working with the event organizers.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
That's good.
Melody, any more questions?
Do you have hours available for the public right now? Or do you have that information down pat?
As far as the hours that the event will be,
Yes, sir.
from 10 a.m. on Saturday. Oh, and there is a correction. I believe the date is actually supposed to be Friday the 27th and Saturday the 28th. The craft fair will begin at 10 a.m. We would like music to start at noon. Once we announce the winners of the cook-off, and music will run until 9 p.m. at the latest, and we're hoping to have the parking lot cleaned up by 11 p.m. of Saturday the 28th.
All I have. Thank you.
Thank y'all. We appreciate it. I'll go to Bob or one of y'all. We advertise the dates. Changing those a problem, as long as we mention them in the motion. Okay. Does anybody else want to say anything about this? If not, then I'll ask for a motion from the council on B from the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve letter B from the consent agenda with the correct dates of September 27th and 28th.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise. Gentlemen, good luck with it. Mary, thank you for your work. Next, we'll go to old business, quasi-judicial public hearing, Kronberg's Campground. And I think we're going to Aaron for the update on this. Aaron, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was originally brought before council at the March meeting, but has been tabled subsequently due to working on a few details on a TRC item. But as you mentioned before, this is a request for a special use permit for a commercial campground for property located on Kronsberg Court. The property is currently vacant. Property zoned industrial are required by the development ordinance to apply for a special use permit to allow for the use of a commercial campground. Staff's recommendation, I would like to point out a change in that since the original submittal back in March before council, there have been some changes to the plan or the course of the plan. We are now looking at just one recommendation versus three. So before you, the first two items we are omitting and covering that with the staff recommend approval with the recommendation with the condition of a TRC approved plan shall be in place before any construction activities begin. Versus the first two being on there as well.
But that's our exceptions you're
Yeah, I'm not
alluding
clear.
to.
Right, that's correct.
All right, questions for the staff? Before that, should we go through the quasi judicial hearing process?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to read a statement, explain the council's role in a quasi judicial hearing. An application for a special use permit requires the city council to hold a quasi judicial hearing. The council will move from its usual role as a legislative body to a judicial body. The council will be acting as a court would act to establish a factual background to support a decision about the rights of affected landowners. The applicant seeking approval in the quasi-judicial hearing action has the legal burden to present sufficient evidence to support the approval of its application. The council will take the evidence and obtain exhibits in order to establish the record. If there is an appeal from an aggrieved party, the record will be reviewed by a court of law to determine the validity of the council's decision. Tonight's hearing is for the consideration of a special use permit pursuant to the City of Graham development ordinances. This is a public hearing, and anyone wishing to testify or present relevant evidence should come forward at this time to be sworn in.
Now, I'd like to poll the council to see if the council's had any information, and I've stressed to y'all earlier that I had talked to Jennifer and Chuck prior to us knowing that this was quasi judicial, and y'all said I think that I could still see it, but I will tell you that again. But I haven't spoke to them since we knew that. If y'all all right with me sitting there?
I'm okay. I'm good.
Anybody else?
Yeah, just refresh my memory, Mayor, what the content of that conversation was.
It was coming. And
Okay.
They were telling, they got me to look at something from Texas that was the same venue.
Understood.
Still all right with that?
I'm still okay with that.
Anyone else? With that, I'll go back to the staff. We want to know about the exceptions you were talking about. Let's go over those a little bit closer.
Yes, well, in your packet, there are currently three staff recommendations. I'm sorry, three conditions under the staff recommendation. The remote access to the property for emergency purposes. Also, the sanitary sewer connection shall be designed, maintained, and operated to prevent intrusion in the event of a flood, as well as the one that I mentioned earlier, a TRC approved plan shall be in place before any construction activities begin. Since March, we have been working on some of the technical aspects of the project, and the first two don't necessarily need to be stated because they would be covered with the TRC approval.
Okay, first two. Anybody have any questions about that? So in our motion, when we get ready to make the motion, we don't have to make but one, a TRC approved plan.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Now, does anybody want to speak from this in the audience? Chuck, Jennifer? Oh, sorry. Let me have your name and address, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. My name is Ryan Moffitt. I practice law with the Vern Law Firm in Burlington, located at 522 South Lexington Avenue. I represent I-40 Drive-In LLC, Chuck and Jennifer Talley's entity and the applicant for this. Wanted to just first thank Mayor and Council for your patience and leave over the last few months as we've worked with staff to hammer out some of the details that Mr. Hollins mentioned earlier. We're to a point where I think everyone's comfortable between the applicant and staff with moving forward. I do want to thank Frankie Manus and Aaron Holland and Brian Coleman and Bob Ward and Nathan Page for making themselves available and communicating with us to get to today where we can move on this. So with that being said, because this is a quasi judicial setting, I do want to make sure we lay some factual foundation for the 6 conditions that are required to establish the appropriateness of this special use permit. I'm going to try to work through those 6 conditions as quickly as I can and not take up any more time than I have to. I know that Mr. and Ms. Talley have remarks that will speak to those conditions as well. And Chad Huffine of the Leeds engineering firm who developed the plan and has worked with the Talleys from day one on this is here. I don't think he's got remarks, but he's available to answer any technical questions if y'all should have any. So with that being said, I'll just jump right into these conditions. The first being that all applicable regulations of the zoning district in which the use is proposed are complied with. This property is made up of 34.88 acres. As Aaron mentioned, it's currently zoned I-1 light industrial. The proposed use that the applicant's proposing is a 5-screen drive-in cinema along with the accessory use of a commercial campground. With this special use permit to allow for the commercial campground, the proposed use and the property are in compliance with the ordinances and regulations provided for light industrial zoning districts in the city of Graham. The second condition, that conditions specific to each use as identified by this ordinance are complied with. The Graham Development Ordinance doesn't actually speak specifically to the proposed uses in this instance, so that condition would not apply in this case. The third condition, that the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. The uses of the property for a commercial campground as an accessory use to the proposed cinema won't materially endanger the public health and safety as it's proposed on the submitted plan. You'll see that the plan provides for a pretty simple loop drive in the eastern portion of the property where the commercial campground is proposed. This is intended to provide comfortable ingress and egress for recreational vehicle users and campers. And there's ample space at each of the approximately 61 proposed campsites for the patrons to set up their camp and enjoy the amenities. You'll hear more from the applicants to this point on the positive impacts of the commercial campground and the recreational opportunities that come with it that I think speak to the health and safety considerations of this application. The fourth condition is that the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or that the use is a public necessity. Again, you'll hear more about this from the Talleys about the economic benefits that come along with this proposed use. But the bottom line is that the business model that accompanies the proposed uses, you can expect that they'll bolster the property values in the surrounding areas and drive business activity for those surrounding business properties, as they're largely complementary to the commercial campground and drive-in cinema business models. You've got the Pilot truck stop, the Flying J truck stop, several restaurants within those 2 properties, a hotel, all of which lend themselves to what the applicant is proposing for this property. And that goes hand in hand with the 5th condition, which is that the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted, will be in harmony with the area in which it's to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development for the Graham planning area. Again, it's a complementary use to those surrounding businesses. It's perfectly harmonious, or complementary and harmonious. They're interchangeable. They're going to feed off each other and benefit the surroundings. The other thing is comprehensive land use plan for the city calls for this area to remain industrially used. So it's going to remain in conformity with existing prescribed land uses. And the final condition for the special use permit is that the plan provides satisfactory provision for vehicle circulation, parking and loading, service entrances and areas, screening, utilities, signs and lighting, and open space. To this point, I would just again reference the plan that's been submitted and that's before you, and specifically the layout of the campground. I think Mr. Huffines done an exceptional job making it easy to use and access to exit on a day-to-day basis and in emergency situations. There's ample room for the individual campsites. And then obviously the condition that we've spoken about that has been recommended as part of this permit, that the plan be TRC approved. That's of course going to require that the plan be reviewed by each of the, from a technical standpoint, by each of the departments to ensure that each of these items are addressed and accounted for within the plan. And just as a final point, you know, this proposed use is really intended to provide an opportunity for unique recreational activity and kind of a unique opportunity for the citizens of Graham and its out-of-town visitors. With that being said, I'd respectfully ask that you consider this information and the evidence that you've heard from me, that you'll hear from the applicants in this hearing, in support of the required conditions, and to favorably grant the applicant's special use permit as it's been recommended by city staff. Again, thank you all, council staff, for your time and patience, favorable consideration. With that being said, I'll invite Jennifer and Chuck Talley up to add to a couple of those points and speak to these conditions.
Prior to that,
their
Mr. Moffitt, let
request
me
for
poll the
application.
council and see if they have any questions for you.
Sure,
okay?
I'm happy to do so.
I'll start with Chip. please.
No question.
Lee, question?
No questions.
No.
No, sir.
Thanks.
No, sir.
You must have done a wonderful job. Good deal.
I told you I'll leave it to them and not take too much of your time. But again, if questions do arise, happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Who wants to speak next on this? Welcome, Jennifer. Let's have your name and address, please.
Jennifer Talley, 808 Sideview Street, Graham.
Thank you. I'm going to submit this into evidence. One should be given.
How many of these have you got?
I have one extra one.
We need to give one to either Brian or Bob, one or the other. Let me go to them first. Jennifer, hold on just 1 second. We're going to use this as evidence, so what do we need to do?
I guess do you have something to mark it with, Exhibit A or?
Yeah. Okay. Now.
Okay, so just wanted to take a minute to talk to you a little bit about the I-40 drive-in and kind of speak briefly as to why we decided to add the campground feature. In 2018, approximately 51 million people were taking trips in North Carolina. And North Carolina actually ranked number 6 in the U.S. in terms of domestic visitation. It also ranked number 7 in overnight visitation. Flip the slide. Okay. 90% of all domestic visitors came to North Carolina for pleasure purposes, and 89% of travelers that drove in the state, they drove 89% versus traveling by air, which was only 8%. So when those people were here, according to 2018, the average household trip actually resulted in that person spending $564. The average trip expenditure for overnight visitors was $721. Daytime parties, $203 per visit. The top states of origin for total visitors were in-state residents, 44.8%. So that's people traveling, obviously, just from town to town. The one thing that Graham, of course, has is its beautiful roads. And as we always say, all roads lead to Graham. So thank God that they do. We have two. Most towns hope to have one major road. We have many, many major roads, 70, Highway 54, Highway 87, Highway 49. And then we have two major interstates that not only travel through, but actually merge together and travel through with two exits off here in Graham. 36% of households that traveled to North Carolina in 2018 had a household income of over $100,000. I was surprised by that. The average household income for all visitors was $85,450, and outdoor recreation is a vital cornerstone of successful communities that cannot be ignored. More importantly, the outdoor recreation is no longer a nice to have, it's now a must have, as leaders across the country recognize undeniable economic, social, and health benefits in regard to recreation. So we have a lot of statistics here that are attached about all the economic benefits that we have. The Mountains to the Seas program, which I know Melanie's very familiar with. These are things that certainly bring these people that have disposable income for an RV park or a campground. They have disposable income where they can purchase a $100,000 motor coach, $1 million motor coach, I didn't even know this until I started camping, a $2 million motor coach. It's amazing the amount of people that have packed up for whatever reason and educate their kids on the bus traveling across country. What a great education for kids. But it's really amazing what this industry is doing. If you look at if you'll skip forward to, you can see here with the investment that we have for adventuring outdoors. Product sales, that's direct sales for actually apparel, footwear, all of that. That's $120.7 billion nationwide. And that results from that spending with trips and travel, food, drink, transportation, kind of all the other sales that come from that $700 spent when you have one particular person come into your town. 646 billion direct sales, and you can look yourself to see that we have so many opportunities with outdoor recreation. It's a job innovator. It employs a lot of people. We have more American jobs dependent on trail sports, 768,000 than there are lawyers, and who doesn't want less lawyers, right? So we definitely want to try to promote outdoors. We want to promote the tax revenues that this type of event would promote, and 54% of campers travel within a 100-mile radius. Both Millennial and Generation X campers are the most likely to camp in 2019. We're trying to capitalize, obviously, on Millennials and Generation X people that spend, our citizens here. We seem to be growing more and more with Millennials and Generations in our community. Just to kind of give you an idea of how much revenue outdoor camping does. When the budget cuts happened, and DC couldn't come up with a solution for the budget and prolong the spending and keeping people employed. The National Park Service had to shut down. They estimated those sales, $32 million lost per day across the nation. So it's absolutely a really big, important economic giant. $646 billion on outdoor recreation is just something you just can't ignore. If you'll move forward. It has strong and steady growth. It's pretty much recession-proof in 2005 through 2011, when all other industries were kind of contracting. The recreation actually was growing. If you couldn't afford to take that really expensive trip or couldn't afford the airfare, you took your kids camping. You took them to the beach, camping, these sort of things. It's just something that's really shown itself to be a industry that continues to grow with bicycling, camping, fishing, hunting, off-roading, snow sports, water sports, all sorts of things. If you'll move forward. Outdoor recreation can continue to be a jobs generator and an economic driver. Outdoor recreation strengthens local communities. As I said earlier, you really hurt a lot of people when you take recreation out of the business model. It's not something fun that you just can do. It's not an ancillary thing. It employs a lot of people. And when the government shuts down, you can really see those things kind of come to fruition. A lot of the businesses surrounding those national parks were really failing and in a big time. They still have to employ people. You can't just say, okay, no budget, the government shut down, the national park shut down, we're going to close all of these stores, close all these restaurants for, week, 2 weeks. Those kind of things definitely are something, it affects a lot of people. And over 35 million people visit national wildlife refuges each year. We have a local one here, the National Conservancy that they have in Mebane, the Conservancy Center there. It's kind of known really regionally. People come from all over to visit it. The camping industry has over 25 billion in economic impacts. If you'll move forward. The summary of the results is who is camping. So I have these demographics here so that you can have an idea, but as I said earlier, the main people in 2019 are going to be your millennials or Generation X. 54%, if you'll move forward, 54% of campers travel less than 100 miles from home to camp. We feel like we will get a lot of what we call staycations. So people wanting to go and vacation and maybe not spend a lot of money, just spend the weekend, leave on a Thursday, stay Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and stay close to home where they can just take their RV, camp, and then be able to drive back from wherever they are. Obviously, what we are going to be promoting in the campground, which all campgrounds do, KOAs across America, they promote local attractions. So I think the boost to the local economy here will be very impressive. Young campers that maybe haven't ever visited Graham, and we're kind of located between Graham, Haw River, and Mebane. We're in Graham, but certainly it's just one exit up to the Mebane area. And there's a lot of there obviously to see as well. If you'll turn to the very last page. The property highlights are 35 acres, drive-in, on-site, abundant green space, high-end tailgating, event space, stocked fishing pond, guaranteed to catch a fish, Mayor Peterman, recreational games, walking trails, dog park, full-service hookups, on-site management staff, picnic tables, playgrounds, hiking trails, boating, shelters. Area attractions would be the on-site concessions that we have, truck stop refueling stations, and when you own a motor coach, we happen to own a motor coach, you already have a kind of a guaranteed market because people can't just pull in with an RV into a regular gas station. This is where they pull in, is these truck stops. They have an RV rig wash there, Tanger Outlets, the Conservator Center, as I mentioned earlier, Iron Gate Winery. We have wine tours here as well, Alamance Crossing, the shopping there, the Children's Museum, the Arts Council, Historic Downtowns, the Look Up Tours, the antique shopping. They have some great antique shopping also in Mebane. The escape room they have there, the area golf courses, the historic museums, and local dining. And that's really what we would be promoting. Chuck's going to talk to you a little bit about why we decided to do the campground, but I think in talking with both our bank and talking with what's the best use of that property. And I also have the UNC Institute of Environment did a case study recently about the city of Kinston, which we recently visited. And people that know Kinston know it's notorious for flooding, as Newbern is as well. And so they took this property, because on the edge of our property there's some flood zone property, but they took this property and it's very interesting what they did with it. They had Hurricane Floyd, and they started buying up all the flood zone property and paying the people out to be able to relocate there in Kinston. So they bought 188 properties in 1997 after Fran, and then in 2016 after Floyd, they bought 1,000 homes and 100 lots there through the State Clean Water Management Trust Fund. FEMA, the governor, was involved. The state of North Carolina also helped fund that as well. North Carolina Clean Water Management Trust Fund. 97% of the homeowners participated in that buyout. It's just interesting. I do have a point to this. 90% relocated within the city limits. So those Kinston people stayed in Kinston. And they stayed in Kinston, even though somebody bought them completely out, because they saw what Kinston was doing. And Kinston just won a North Carolina award and was recognized nationally, actually, for their revitalization efforts there in Kinston. Love what they're doing there. In 1980, they got a community development block grant. They took all this land that now Kinston owned, and they made what we're trying to make. They took this land along the Neuse. We have a little creek. When you stand on the edge of it, it's 12 feet down to the surface. But they have the Neuse River. I mean, they have a big river. We've been out at the property. We don't really have flooding there. There's less than a 1% chance of any kind of flood. But I find it interesting that they took this land that everybody else perceived as unvaluable, and they saw a need, and they saw a way to be able to make this a wonderful park and a wonderful way for people to enjoy their town when they came to visit. So they turned it into the Newsway Nature Center. They have a campground there, playground, museum. And the city of Kinston has really worked very diligently with this developers down there. Stephen Hill is one of the major developers there, did Mother Earth Motor Lodge, did Mother Earth brewery, that's really well known. The Chef and the Farmer there. They've worked very hard hand in hand with these developers to try to bring something to their town. And, we certainly hope that you will see the value in what we're trying to bring to Graham. And we hope that you'll support us 100%. Thank
Jennifer,
you.
would you mind if we have any questions? I'll start with Lee. Lee, you got any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So let's start. So Jennifer, in the original application, you were asking for, I believe it is, up to 75 sites, but
Yes.
the plat is showing 61 sites. Is that
Yes.
correct? So where do you see those additional 14 sites being located?
Well, Chuck can better speak to that. We had originally planned however many sites you say on those at
61.
61. Nathan had actually said, go ahead and do 75 in the event that when you're doing your layout or you're in construction and you need to move something, the biggest thing about, development is being able to kind of, as you know, is kind of roll with the punches. So you don't want to have to go back before council and change. So if you think you're going to need 61, ask for 75, and hopefully, obviously if we need to make additional ones, we have no problem, doing whatever the city, whatever Frankie, whatever the city staff needs us to do. But as far as I know, is that not correct, that we just asked for more than what we needed? Yeah.
Okay. Is there going to be any restrictions on the type of RV or pole behind? Do you want to come up, Chuck? You might be able to answer these, or it looks like you've got an answer for this. So.
Well, let's let Chuck do his presentation.
Okay.
And then we'll come back. Will that be all right with
Do you have any
everyone?
other questions for me?
Melody?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I'll just reserve mine until after
Okay,
Chuck,
we'll let Chuck speak.
Yeah. because he may answer a lot of the questions I have.
Chuck, let us have your name and address, please.
Chuck Talley, 808 Sideview Street. So if you want to go on and ask the questions, or you want me to go on and...
It is entirely up to you. It's your podium.
Okay.
It's your
So
floor.
the reason that I'm talking is because we feel like the necessity for it is because of additional expense that got put on to us by the Corps. Okay. And so what had happened is when we went out additionally and had the land surveyed with not a full permit, a evaluation permit from the Corps, and we hired an environmental company out of Selma. His son actually worked at the Corps, and this guy did a wetland reclamation for the federal government for like 18, 20 years following the Clinton administration passing stuff. So we tried to get the most qualified person because we knew in our due diligence period that we wanted to make sure that we could make this property work with the Corps. It was very important because they don't answer to nobody in North Carolina. There's a brigadier general up in DC they answer to. So that was the hurdle we was trying to get past. And we'd already started talking to Chad at that time, just looking at things, kicking the wheels, I guess, a little bit. So looking at the plan and everything, originally we were just looking at doing the drive-in. And so what had happened is when we went out, with the Corps we had found a stream, and it's hard for me to show from up there, but we found a stream, and the stream actually run sort of like looking at it northeast, and then it went east beside the property, not on our property. It stays on CKS property. It goes on to CKS. So we knew that we had that stream there, and the court identified that stream, and it kind of ended right at where our concession and the round circle is. It kind of ended at that point. And so the preliminary is not a permit. It's to say, okay, this is what we can do if you'll come back. So we went on at that point, we had to hire Boswell Surveying to go in and break the land because it was a 52-acre tract. And the first thing we had to do was break it in half. And at that point, once we had done that, we could go into a preliminary plan to get back to the Corps, to get the Corps to approve what they had now identified with Brown Environmental. So it takes, several months because we're a shortage of surveyors, we're a shortage of things getting happen. It took a couple months to get Boswell out there to break it off. After they had just got the land surveyed and everything, and all the irons are in and everything, and I guess at this point it was either already identified as a new tract of land with a new parcel ID number. I got a phone call from the land seller, and he had asked me to meet the solar panel company out there. So I met them at the field that's got the 14.25 acres. I met them on the corner of that field there, and I explained to them that we had property irons all around there, and the pink ribbons were our corners, and that was the land we were buying, and actually handed him a piece of paper where we had met with the Corps. And if anybody's dealt with the Corps before when it's on a big tract of land, you don't have to look at the whole tract, just the area that you're looking at. So we had taken a Sharpie and outlined where we wanted the Corps to go, okay? And that was going to be in our permit. So I handed it to the guy, and I said, this is what we're doing, and this is our land. And he started pointing at my land, and I said, no, there's no need going there. This is our project. We're under contract. We're moving forward. So I left. He had pulled a permanent permit, okay? So we're thinking everything's fine. We're easing in. We've now got stuff back. We're moving forward to closing. The week before closing, I got a phone call from the land seller, and not only did he take the Corps on our land and tell the Corps that we were out of the equation, he enlarged the wetlands and he stretched the stream out another 500 some feet. So now the stream goes from the circle area right there all the way up to the truck stop in the corner there. So now he also found another stream, and he also made the wetlands a lot larger. So now our entrance is bottlenecked. Now instead of us having 4 or 5 lanes coming in and having an emergency lane for emergency vehicles to get in and get out, now we're done this, and we're squeezed down to little or nothing. So at this point, there's no recourse. And so we had met, we talked to some people. You know, the thing is you phone a friend if you got a problem. So you phone somebody who knows what they're doing. And we knew that if we moved forward at that point, we're kind of rolling the dice because we hadn't assessed everything and we knew that we were going to be in a little bit of trouble. But I feel like that the time that I've been back in this town, I was born in this town, that I'm one that I know this is going to be such a good destination for Graham that we're willing to take a chance on it. We were buying 2 billboards in the process also with the purchase. So we had some income coming in off the property anyway. So what happens is when we go back to the core, we actually got everything drawn. And I think took Chad a little while to get this plan laid out without the drive-in. And we were trying to figure out how to get the emergency vehicles and stuff in. And so we had met with Chad and I met with Frankie, and they said that's one thing that can go in that location is RV park. So any dark spot you see is wetlands, okay? So there's a wetland at the second driveway. By moving to a second driveway down there, the fact is we were able to exempt some wetlands, okay? So that's a wetland we could exempt. Every black spot you see is exempt wetlands. We had to get that exempt. Now the core, when we went back down there, because we're like this, when me and Chad made a trip to Wake Forest, they had said when we walked in the door and sat down with them, we were like, my soil scientist was very knowledge in the industry, and he said, just say that you would have not bought the land if the stream would have gone another 500 foot, that would have been a deciding point. And I did, and of course he was a little frustrated and said they had lawyers, and of course I said I had lawyers, but I was there for resolution. And where the second driveway is, there was a piece of land that we had not looked at. So that meant we didn't have to go and try to overturn something with the Bridget Dare General and go to DC. So this had not been assessed. So at that point, we hired environmental company, Brown out of Selma to come back in and finish the entire 35-acre tract. In the process, that second driveway has 2 42-inch parallel runs of concrete pipe that total almost 170-some feet that we now have to install. The second driveway has got extremely expensive, and we've moved down Kronberg Court. So at that point, talking with the lending institution, which has never done a drive-in movie theater, okay, especially 1 screen, not 5 screens, at that point, we had talked to them, and I said there might be a possibility because the cost of the project is going through the roof because of the extra pipe, the stone, and everything, things that we didn't plan on spending money on, that they got real excited when we spoke up about the RV park. They fund 2 RV parks, and they said, okay, now we have a project that's questionable that has movie screens that could be seasonal. We could have a bad year with 120 inches of rain last year, and so it affects our sales. And now we have a second outlet of income. So the debt became more secure, and the banks like with see if you can get that through. And if you can get that through, we're more enticed to go forward. Of course, you know, the more we do, the more money we're going to spend, but the security of having a second outlet of income is extremely important. So just getting past the core, I started having questioning, did I even want to take this project on? Because at this point, you know, 6 months after we bought the land, Henderson Scott calls me and says, hey, Chuck, you need to get down here. I said, why? He said, I think your attorney recorded the deed wrong. He said, the solar panel company's trying to buy your land now. And I said, they're trying to buy it? But it still showed up on Alamance GIS that we didn't own it, and Burnt Shops owned it. And so they were still trying to buy the land. They've been inquired about buying it 2 months ago. I even thought 2 months ago, I thought, why would I do the drive-in, and should I do the drive-in? And it's just gotten so complicated. And it's not that if I would be mad at anybody in this room. This is Chuck thinking about Chuck, which is very selfish. I thought, why would I do the drive-in, and what's the options if I don't do it? Well, if I do it, we're looking at 40-some employees, okay? We're also looking at a couple $1 million in debt, and we're also rolling the dice on something that we don't know if it's going to work, okay? If I don't do it, and I did sell the land, the company inquiring needs a topo, which I had to get the topo because of the core getting all confused and everything, that I had to do the topo. And so the topo was $30,000 just to get past the core, okay? Not counting another $3,500 there's engineering fees and all that stuff. So I thought, well, everything I've done that I could actually add value to the property, and I could keep the billboards, and I could collect the money every year until they widen the interstate and take the billboards down. And I thought, well, you know, I could find peace with that, and I could be okay if this doesn't happen. But the problem is I didn't sleep that night because I didn't do this for that reason. I did this because of the guy that walked up to me, and I thought that when I come into this town and started working again, and I realized that I was being told that what's been going on all these years wasn't going to work. And it pissed me off because it's between me and the maker. And I thought, you know what? I did this for the people. I did this because I had neighboring bigger and better cities around me saying that it would never work in Graham. And I thought, you know what, this is what's supposed to be in Graham. This is supposed to create the destination. This is supposed to make us unique to anywhere in the Triangle and Triad. And then what really made me not sleep for the 3 next days was the fact that this is for Graham citizens too. And then that bothered me. So anyway, where we're at is this is not one more hurdle we're trying to get across tonight, is all we're trying to do. I do think it has added value. I do think that there's been phone calls along Jimmy Kerr Road we had a hotel builder. I'm listing the property with the realtor. I'm a co-listing. So we know when people's looking, and we do know that there's been a couple hotels that's inquired about the status of this and is this going to go forward, and they were looking at putting hotels up because they think if this all comes to play, that even from the drive-in movie side, that they're looking at developing hotels and stuff. We've had a couple chain restaurants. We don't want no drive-throughs because that kills the industry. If the industry, the truth be known, that the $8 we'll charge at the door, 80% of it goes back to the movie house. So you only make $1 or something a person for an adult, and around a little less than $1 for a child to come in the door. Our money's made off concession. And so that's why I kind of co-help list the land, because we're trying to make sure we can steer the drive-through lines away right from the door, and we can get good businesses to come in. But that's why we are where we are today, and that's why we talked about doing this 2 or 3 years down the road, but now we feel like the necessity with the bank, and it got the bank really excited because they saw a second outlet of income, and that's why we feel like we have to move forward with this also at the same time.
Chuck, would you mind answering some questions?
I'll be glad to answer them.
Leon, we'll go back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I do. So talk to me about the restrictions on campers, pull-along trailers, what you're going to be looking to put in this park. So
what we're doing is we're putting a Class A park in. Okay, that's very important. A Class A park does not have no long-term residents. We don't want no long-term residents. At the most, most Class A parks have a 90-day, the length you can stay. And typically, it's like Jennifer's boss man, that was an attorney that traveled the last 18 years in a motor coach. He stays in Class A's, but the most they'll let you stay is 3 months. And it's not $600 a month to stay there 3 months. Like a lot of them that don't regulate the Bs, it's $600 a month. They want the permanent residents. We don't. So our 30-day rent, instead of it being somewhere around $1,500, we might discount it to $1,000. We're a Class A park. All the RVs will park on a concrete slab. All right. Everything will be groomed. Everything will look like the pictures that you've seen. There, we can't afford to bring in anything lesser because we've got kids at the drive-in movie. Like if you'll notice the drive-in movie screens, okay, the width of that is the width that we have there, and we're able to nestle in there, is that we've got the concession in the middle, which is over 2,500 square foot, and there's no dining area. So there's 10 checkout points. So what we have there is we have a concession in the middle, and the circle is a putt-putt. And that way we've got, where the drive-in movie screens are, we have all the kids in a safe zone, okay? So we don't want bringing the wrong people in the park that could jeopardize the family atmosphere that we're trying to create. That's why we feel like it has to stay as a Class A coach park, a Class A park.
Okay. So all the sites are going to have water and sewer, as well as electricity as well.
That's correct.
Okay. And you just mentioned that seasonal stays can only be up to 90 days.
Right.
They will be limited. No stays will be over 90 days.
No way.
Okay. Will there be any shower or laundry facilities on site?
We'll have a bathhouse, and I should have brought pictures. We've already had artist renderings, but everything on this site will be done. The bathhouse is actually, if you can, I don't know if you can see it on this picture, you barely can. Behind screen number 1 is where the bathhouse, somewhere up in there will be. I think it's where we put it at, Chad, right? And so we'd locate it behind screen number 1, and it looks like a 1930 service station. Everything that we're going to build in there is going to be built like we're actually modeling the concession after Dewey Allison's service station, which is Forgotten Roads now.
I got
So
you.
everything in there has to be retro looking like you're stepping back in time.
So it's
Everything.
actually in the restroom. The shower facilities will be in the restroom?
Well, the restrooms for the drive-in movie theater are a separate building to themselves.
Right. Okay.
Okay. But the bathhouse is behind screen number 1.
Yeah, because you've got a 12 by 50 that's close to the putt-putt area, but you got a 12 by 18 that's right there at the camping area.
The 12 by 18.
Is what's on the plat.
The 12 by 18 probably.
And I'm assuming that's where the showers are going to be
The
located.
12 by 18 might just be a storage shed. Actually, the footprint of that, I should have brought them. I have a preliminary plan. If I'm not mistaken, the bathhouse is around 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
Because it's got a handicap shower in both of them. It's got 4 stall showers, and then it's got your toilets, and then you got your wall urinals, whatever, and then you've got your area for shaving and stuff like that.
So you got a concession area that's about 4,000 square feet. Is there going to be a store located in that concession area to sell supplies,
Okay.
et cetera?
So see coming in entrance number 2, you see the square building right there. That'll be set up like a general store, okay? It's 2 stories, and we plan on the second floor putting the permanent manager that live on site will be living on the second floor. It looks like a store back from the older town, but it's going to have wood lap siding on it and stuff like that. The first floor will be like a general store where they can buy hose pipes, necessities, things like that. And it'll be, that's the area of the check-in point. So that's where you'll have all the brochures of the downtown and trying to steer people to the restaurants and things that we're going to have it in the downtown area anyway.
Will there be any LP gas sales,
No.
equipment sales,
No.
ATV rentals, anything of that
Only
sort?
thing might be some rent will be, it could be some golf cart rentals if somebody's trying to knock golf carts. But as far as ATVs and things like that, we don't have the excess land, and we're not going to get in the wetlands to do it or tire the streams up. The LP gas is sold at the Flying J or the Flying J truck stop. So we don't want to get in competition with them on that. But we do want to, like 2 nights ago, we went down there to check things out, and there was 8 out of 8 motor coaches sleeping in their parking lot. There was 6 of them that were Class A's that could have came into, instead of being parked beside fuel pumps, and a situation like that, they could actually pull it into the park and stay for night. A lot of Class A park people and the bigger coaches, they don't drive all day long and all night. A lot of them are professionals that are retired, and they typically drive from the hours of 9 to about 4. They don't want to deal with the traffic. And then they get off and they'll drive 300 or 400 miles and they park for the night, and they always look for a place. By us being right near between 2 truck stops, 4 truck stops on each side of us, 2 on each side, that it puts us in a situation where we can get the overnighters to come in. And the one perk we have is for every coach, we can allow for this price, we can allow 2 passes for them, the car they're pulling, to go back up and watch the movie. So that'll help us pull people off too. It'll create a destination for those guys.
Sure. So talk to me a little bit, because what you have on the plat and what you have here submitted tonight is a playground, recreational games. Talk to me about the playground and what equipment do you see in there? Is there going to be zip lines? Is it going to be
We would like to have
swings?
zip lines, but I don't know that we have the room for that.
Okay.
But it'll be more of the stuff that you would see for the toddlers and stuff, and it'll be in between stuff. Don't get me wrong, we were bidding on a train a while back that Burlington had that we thought would be cool to have to go around the putt-putt and stuff that the kids could actually ride on. We actually have looked at some things like that. Of course, if we do, that'll be properly insured and all that stuff, and they're expensive if we do it. And we'd found one up, and I think it was in Tennessee, and it looked just like the one Burlington had, but we weren't willing to take that risk because we're not far enough along to make that investment yet.
Yeah.
So we need to get a little further along before we start trying to make investments.
So out of the 61 proposed sites that's on the plat, how many of those are located within the 100-year floodplain?
In the 100-year, all but 12.
All but 12. Okay. And will the campers be required to sign a waiver to exempt the owners in the city from any injury to person arising out of the use of the campground or the property?
Well, I'm sure that when they check in, they have to sign the application, and we have to look out the liability they're creating for us too.
Absolutely.
So all that stuff, all the legalities will be worked out with Ryan when the time comes, when we get that far along. But we want to reduce the liability on ourselves too. And the thing is, it's like, of course, it is anytime you're dealing with people and quantities, you're taking a risk anyway. And so it is a large risk for us to do this, but on the same line, we're trying to create a very safe environment to minimize any of those.
Sure.
risks.
Absolutely. So will the city also be named on general and flood insurance for this particular park
How does that work?
as being additionally insured?
That's something that hasn't been discussed.
Yeah, we haven't gotten into that,
That
but
point, that's TRC stuff is
yeah, I
what we're
wouldn't-
thinking.
Well, it goes directly to number 3, which is public health. There's a concern there, especially when you have that many. I mean, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just
no,
getting
I understand.
evidence,
Yeah,
and I just
sure.
want to hear what your thoughts are on it.
we have not discussed that, and we're not prepared to say that that would be the case, but that will be discussed with the utilities directors and the public works folks when we go through the TRC.
And the waiver program as well for any camper that's staying in there to.
Yes, we will be discussing policies and procedures that the tallies are gonna follow with the patrons on the property.
Great.
at that time.
All right. Thank you, guys. That's it for me. Thanks.
Good job. Melody, any questions, please?
No, and I think between what Lee has already asked and what I believe the TRC is going to ask and require, I don't think I have any questions at this time. I'd like to see it further along.
Thank you.
Griffin?
Yeah. What is the proposed SCM area? on
The what?
plan? Proposed SCM area?
STM?
I don't know my acronyms.
Chad, let me have your
Fine
name
civil
and address.
engineer for the tallies, 505 East Davis Street. Griffin, that's a stormwater control measure.
Is that the stocked fishing pond?
It certainly could be.
I guess I'm hearing something from Jennifer and I'm hearing something from you, Chuck, that it may be more through traffic, and Jennifer talking about it being a destination. You've got listed stocked fishing pond, recreational games, walking trails, dog park, picnic tables, playground, hiking trails, shelters. Obviously there's abundant green space with the wetlands, but is all that going in that triangle of the loop? I know you said it's a preliminary plan, but there's a big difference with me between it being a destination or just a through traffic point for.
Well, it's a destination because first of all, it's unique to itself being a drive-in movie theater, but it is a destination on the same line. You know, the chances on us pulling people off the road from the truck stops are a lot greater with us being a destination. I mean, nothing says they'll ever stop in Graham, North Carolina without us having something for them to stop for anyway. So it would definitely be a destination. And that was the idea all along. But we have a destination where they can actually come in and benefit from the fact that they're having a drive-in movie theater. And we are going to take the time to have patios, which you probably don't see, and areas out there like that that people can get out and enjoy. Even though I have local people that live within Graham that are wanting to come and set their campers up now. So I'm sitting there. I told the Lee Walker. He told me today. He said, "Man, I want to go down and take my cooker down there myself for the weekend." And I was like, bring it on. I see a lot of us going down there and having staycations and, you know, staying close to home and spending money here. And that's the idea. It's not just a destination for the people traveling down the corridor. It's also a destination for people wanting to come in and see the movies. And it's for the locals to come out and enjoy it also.
So if the drive-in is one of the qualifiers for the campground, has the configuration of the screens been vetted with, I don't know what entity, but DOT, proximity to the interstate?
Mm-hmm. DOT's looked at it, but that's one of the things that is technical that would go back to TRC. That's
Okay.
why that clause is there for TRC.
And they would speak to proximity to the interstate and all those things?
Right. From the back where they're
Let me,
backing up.
let
where
me,
they're
let me
backing
break
up.
this off right here. We're not talking about the drive-in theater. We're talking about the campground.
Right.
It's a standalone project. Am I right?
Right.
Okay,
But
so let's move away from the drive-in, and that'll be a little later date.
Okay.
So can I ask clarification on the parcel we're considering
Yes,
that includes the drive-in?
yes, you can, the parcel is fine, but the particulars of the drive-in theater are not what we're discussing.
But the special use permit would apply to all of it.
We're dealing purely with the campground now,
Just with the campground, not
that section. Is that right, Bob?
Okay.
Right?
So the
Right.
permit's issued for the whole parcel, we're just talking about.
Right, the campgrounds require a special use permit in order for them to exist.
Mhm.
So that's the reason why the request is made for
All right,
for
sorry.
only the campground.
Okay.
When it's the qualifier for the campground, that I made that leap.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
I'm done.
Okay. Chip, question?
Yeah, just one question. You touched on all these property highlights except for the event space. You got event space and you got a drive-in. What kind of events will you have there?
Where's that located? I can't see it from here. That's located in the circle?
by your property highlights here.
Oh, the whole park park itself.
Yeah, so the thing is,
Event space.
not the driving area, but that would relate back to the drive-in movie theater side. That can be used as an event space. Like one of the things that Martin does is he has a American Graffiti Night, and he gives out trophies for people to show up in old cars, and they don't not only show up in old cars, they have to dress the part. So it's the drive-in movie theater on it is an event because it's almost like we got an events coordinator there that we're constantly having events throughout the year and stuff. He's been known to even have concerts out at some of his cars. He's had car shows out there. And, you know, there's a lot of things that could be done on the track of land. Martin, which I've never met, is somebody I met in middle school. And I took all of my mechanics at Southern High School with. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met, never been to college. And so this was not my idea, okay? I just want y'all to know that. This was something that me and him rekindled our friendship. And he was driving it from Texas because he owns 2 in Texas. And he drove up here and he said to me, he said, after we hung out off and on for about 2 years and we helped him buy Lightning's house, Carol Stinson's house, he bought it. And he said, will you pass the test? And I said, well, I didn't know I was taking one. And he said, we're going to do a drive-in movie theater together. And I said, well, I don't know. And then he said, I've already got a tract of land in Burlington. I've got a tract of land towards Archdale. I've talked to somebody down towards Concord. And he said, and these cities are inviting me welcome. And I sat there and I said, well, I ain't doing that. I ain't driving down there and dealing with that. And I thought, realistically, I thought I wouldn't even entertain the thought. But then it hit me. I thought, you know what? This would be good for Graham. And I thought, you know what? I'd be willing to try this here. I would do it here if you'll bring it here. So that's why I'm involved. It's because it's one of those things that I thought that would create a destination. And I'm proud of our community. And more so than that, y'all heard me say that today, it's the people. And so the people is what makes this work. And I thought, well, I want to do this here. And if he's willing to come here and try it, then I'm willing to jump on boat with him and do it. And so he hasn't showed his face a lot because he's in Texas. So I'm the one that's push-hogging and meeting with everybody out on the field, trying to get everything so we can move forward. But he'll be in here, and I'll be glad for y'all to meet him. He's a really good guy. It looks like he's back in the 80s still.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Anyway.
Is there anyone else here that was sworn in earlier that wants to speak on this?
I just want to clarify, Mr. Camry, I feel like I sort of gave you an indirect answer to your question, but as far as flood risk to the city goes, that's part of the conversation that we are going to have with Public Works and with engineering to make sure that city infrastructure is protected from any risk of flood. As far as insurance, we have not gotten there, or what that measure is going to definitively look like, we can't say, but we are addressing flood risk and specifically risk to the city.
And I know that you appreciate the dangers involved and the risk involved in putting people in a flood zone, a 100-year flood zone. And when the city looks at approving a campground in a 100-year flood zone, there's certain risk, and we assume that responsibility if we approve something.
Absolutely.
And the liability could ultimately come back to the city on our approval for putting the public's health in danger by allowing something to occur in a 100-year floodplain.
Exactly. You're
okay.
Absolutely right. And I see where your question comes from. So I just wanted to make sure I gave you a direct answer.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else? Not, then we'll close the hearing and we'll discuss it among ourselves for a couple minutes. What does everybody think? What you think? Thank you. Did all your questions get answered?
They did. They did.
The liability of the 100-year floodplain, if it was is that a deal breaker for you or not?
When you entertain a motion, I would like the opportunity to make a motion whenever you think it's appropriate. My motion may address some of those concerns.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to kill the project by any means. I have some questions. Can I address staff or address Brian?
We can address anyone you want to.
Brian, so I need some clarity on, I guess my confusion was whether this permit, this permitted use, the special use it's not attached to the parcel in any way. Is it attached to the project itself? I need clarity on that. I'm sorry.
The special use permit is approved and it will run with the land.
What if that property is transferred?
It'll run with the land. It'll go to the next owner or whoever owns it down the road.
I guess what dangers? What could that make us susceptible to if it sells in 3 years, 5 years, and undeveloped? Is there anything, and that could go to Aaron as well, I guess.
Well, are you asking as far, well, to answer part of your question, special use permit, say there was no construction at all. After 24 months, 2 years, then basically the special use permit is void.
Okay.
So there is a timetable for construction or for the project to begin construction.
So one more question. Within that 24 months, is this special use permit tied specifically to a campground? This project?
It would be valid for a campground.
Only?
Yes.
What are the other uses for special use permit?
I'm just,
But that would be only for the special use permit is only for the campground.
yeah, that,
There are uses by right for that property
And
that
that's-
exist.
Yes.
And
Right.
should the developer change their mind and want to put a light industrial warehouse,
true.
that's,
But that's the
if that's a
existing
permitted use, then they're allowed to do that.
of the existing
Yeah,
zoning.
this request tonight gives them an additional use of the property,
This specific
this
use.
specific request.
Okay, that's most of my concerns.
Anyone else got any concerns?
I think that, what happens a lot of times that most of the public doesn't see is that a lot of these questions that we're asking tonight openly and a lot of questions and concerns that we have that you may also have are all answered when TRC takes a look at these projects and they go through them thoroughly. That's why I simply don't have that many concerns tonight because TRC will take a look and be sure that we are met. Again, my concerns are the floodplain, sanitary sewers, all of those issues, I think are of some concern. We've been in places before where we've had things happen and we have people in 100-year floodplains and we have mobile homes and we have to constantly move them out when it rains too hard. I think there are all kinds of issues, but I have a great deal of confidence in our staff and engineers and believe that they can pull out all those concerns that we have.
So the one thing that I'd like to say in regards to that too, Melody, is what concerns me is looking at last year, and I think even Chuck brought this up, is the amount of rain that we had last year. We had documented 4 certified floods in 3 months last year. So that means flood waters are going to enter this area where that campground is if we have continued conditions like this in the future. And that's my concern, is that we're protected. Not that this is a wonderful use. I think it's great. I mean, it's just, I think it's great. I think it's got a lot of benefits for the city and surrounding areas. We just have to protect the citizens and the people that are going to be there. That's my concern.
And I want to echo that as well. I think this is a terrific project. I'm very interested to see the 2 recreational sources together to see how they work. It's an unusual package, but I'm all for anything that is outdoor recreation oriented, of course, and that will bring citizens into the city of Graham as a destination. So I feel very positive towards those things. It's just the small details we need to get worked out.
Anyone else got anything else? Then let me move you to page 27 on your agenda.
Mayor?
Yes, I'll ask for a motion, Lee.
Okay. I move that the application be approved with the following conditions. A TRC approved plan shall be in place before any construction activities begin. That all campers in the campground be required to sign a waiver to exempt the city and owners from damages to property and injury to persons arising out of the use of the camping facilities. That the city of Graham be named as additionally insured on general and flood insurance. I moved that the findings of fact and conclusions of law as presented in the staff report, that this application is consistent with the Graham 2035 comprehensive plan, and that this action is reasonable in the public interest for the following reasons: that it will increase tourism, policy 2.18 in our comprehensive plan, and increase the development density of one of our industrial properties.
I have a motion with 3 conditions: a TRC approved plan, all campers sign a waiver, and additional insured with the city included. Melody. Darcy,
Sir,
did you get all those? I was listening. Darcy, did you get them?
Yes.
Would you read them back so we can get an ask for
I
a
won't be
second?
able to read them back exactly how he.
We'll get it from the recording. I need a second on that motion.
Second.
Thank y'all. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. thank everybody. We appreciate it. It's a very good project, and we're looking forward to it. Yes, sir. Very good job, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, next we're going to go to B, public hearing, approve a resolution ordering closure of a portion of Baldwin Road. Aaron, you're handling this also?
Yes, Mayor. As introduced last month, Mark and Wanda Blaylock have requested the removal of a proposed roadway which bisects their land on Baldwin Road. This portion of right-of-way is essentially a paper right-of-way. It exists only on a plat and has not been constructed. This section of roadway is not currently accounted for the purposes of the power bill, and therefore the city receives no funds from the state for it. Staff does recommend approval.
Questions for the staff? Melody, please.
No, sir.
Griffin?
No, sir.
Chip?
No, sir.
Lee?
No questions, Mayor.
Good deal. Anyone else want to speak to this? If not, then I'll move you to page 28 on your agenda and ask for a motion from the council.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the resolution ordering the closing of the portion of Baldwin Road.
Thank you, ma'am. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Next, we have a public hearing, petition for voluntary contiguous annexation. Aaron, you're handling this also?
Yes, sir. Sugar Enterprises LLC has submitted a petition for council's approval to annex approximately 111.44 acres off Rogers Road into the corporate limits of Graham. Water and sewer are both available. The annexation process has multiple steps. Following a public hearing, approval of an annexation ordinance is the final step for council in the annexation process. Staff does recommend approval for this request.
All right, question for the staff. Griffin, please.
I will, Aaron. And this was kind of out of left field this afternoon, but the Triad Business Journal announced that sugar had been sold to a South Carolina company named Mungo, which is part of a Berkshire Hathaway affiliate. Would that change our relationship or how we should consider this in any way?
Probably have to turn to the attorneys on that one.
You go ahead.
No, let me make, would you take the question again? I'm sorry.
The Triad Business Journal announced about 6 hours ago that sugar was sold to a South Carolina company that was an affiliate of Berkshire Hathaway named Mungo out of, I think it was Irma, South Carolina. Would that affect anything we should consider tonight with this annexation?
No.
Okay. No more questions.
You have a question?
No question.
I asked Melody already, I believe.
You did not, but no, sir, I don't.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
All right, good deal. Anyone else from the floor? With that being said, I'll move to page 33 and ask for a motion from the council.
Mayor, I move we approve the annexation ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the city of Graham, North Carolina for an area off Rogers Road.
Thank you, sir. I need a second.
Second.
Thank y'all. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Next, we've got requests and petitions from the citizens, encroachment license agreement request by Jason Cox for property on West Elm Street. And Aaron, you've got this also?
I do.
Frankie had the night off.
Nathan had the night off.
Yeah, he has. Jason Cox has submitted a written request and supporting photos for a proposed grease trap to be installed within the sidewalk on the West Elm Street side of the property located at 20 Southwest Court Square. The intent of the grease trap is to serve a future restaurant at the location. An encroachment license agreement approved by City Council is required pursuant to Section 18-2C of the city's Code of Ordinances. City staff has met and concurs with the proposed location of the grease trap. Historic Resources Commission approval is not required for this installation. There is a nominal expense to the city for costs associated with processing and monitoring of the license. Staff recommends approval. Their proposed project has received all necessary reviews and approvals, and there is no conflict within the right-of-way.
Any questions for staff? Chip, please.
No question.
Lee.
I do. Just one question, Aaron, if you could answer this for me. This particular building has no property outside the boundaries of the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Melody, questions, please.
We are looking at where we have the dotted lines on these sheets. Is that correct? And the white dotted lines. the green dotted lines are actually where the grease trap is going, or they're where the lines are.
But those were locates for, you remember what utility that was?
White is the general area that LAD requested the utility locating service done. Green is going to be your sewer line, and your
Right.
sewer fall going out to the street. Orange is going to be your gas.
There we go.
Just don't forget to put back the bike rack.
We won't have the bike. We'll have to put it back.
Is that it, Melody?
It is.
Okay, Griffin.
So to further Melody's curiosity, and this is coming from a place of grease trap ignorance, where would the access point to empty that trap be? Will there be an additional hole in the sidewalk?
Well, in your packet, there's a picture that has 2 manholes.
So would it be accessed through a manhole?
Right. It would be essentially that. We have this set up currently. I want to say the Verdict and one more, Soda Shop.
That was my next question. So we've done this before, and
This
given-
actually is Soda Shops here.
Okay. No more questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this? Jason, you want to speak, or you all right with us?
I'm happy to answer questions, but I'm not going to waste your time.
Good time.
I don't have any questions.
Questions? Questions? Okay, thank you, Jason. All right, with that, anyone else want to speak on this? All right, then I'll move you to page 39 in your agenda. Now I'll ask for a motion.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to authorize the city manager and the city attorney to enter into an encroachment license agreement with Jason Cox for the proposed grease trap on the West Elm Street side of 20 Southwest Court Square property as identified by the submitted photos with the following conditions. Provide proof and maintenance of $1 million in liability insurance with the city as additionally insured. Provide a final survey to confirm approved use of public space. And improvements under the encroachment license must be made prior to the expiration of the building permit.
Thank you, sir. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Thank you, Jason. Good luck with it. All right, next we have Alamance County Visitors Bureau presentation by Miss Grace. Let us have your name and address, please.
Grace Vandivister, 204 Singletree Circle, Haw River. Thank you, Mayor and council members, for having me be here today. And although I had mentioned to Darcy, I had this on paper, but she said she was going to get it up on the screen, so I was okay with that.
You'll do it?
Yes. All of you received earlier our new visitor guidebook. Some of you actually participated in our rebranding early, well, 2 years ago almost. And so some of you are a little bit familiar with this logo that you see here. So you can go on, actually you can skip a couple of screens. So 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, we started on a mission to rebrand what was the Burlington Alamance County Convention and Visitors Bureau. In the mission to do that, we really wanted to encompass what Alamance County was. So we hired a company to come in and speak to many locals, do a lot of surveys. There was a lot of information that was gathered about what folks thought of Alamance County. And this is a very condensed presentation, for I have much information if you ever want to read the big book on what transpired during that time. But what we found is we're not just one community. We're a compilation of many communities creating stories here. And so ultimately, what they came up with was we changed it to the towns and villages of Alamance County. And that to us conveyed a sense of charm. People are looking for something different, wanting to get back into the local environment that our communities have. So as fortunate as we are to have the 40 and 85 go through Alamance County, we really needed to encourage people to get off and explore our areas, our downtowns, which are really going through a great revitalization, and that is, makes for these great destinations. So to many visitors and some residents, the story of Alamance County begins and ends at I-40. But when one veers from the expected path, the unexpected happens. Hidden gems sprinkled throughout our county reveal themselves. Transform mills, charming villages, eye-opening history, and engaging outdoors are suddenly front and center. Here you can dine on locally sourced meals, enjoy craft beers, float down our river, and learn about our history before our country was even a country. Each place leaving you with stories to tell. Ooh, you went too fast. And I can. That's okay. I don't know it by heart, but that's okay. So we'll just move on. So I wanted to show you some examples of what we've done. So when we finished our rebranding project, that was a little over a year ago. In July of last year, we actually launched the brand. And in September, we launched a new website. Here are some examples of what we've done. And they range from digital ads to print advertising. And, you know, we do everything from music. So you see this whole effort with Small Surprises, because we don't have this large amusement park. We don't have that large attraction. What we have are wonderful things to explore, all these small gems throughout our county. So we call them Small Surprises. So we have small surprises for music lovers, historians, and so we have simplified a lot of our advertising and also told stories on our larger formats where we can. You can go on to the next one. These are some more examples. Actually, the one on the left obviously is very recognizable for it's the Love Graham mural. And one of our locals whose daughter appears on that. In fact, she's already been called out by family saying that they've seen this ad in our state magazine. So she's very excited and has offered to model anytime I want her to. So it's great. So again, you know, Small Surprises off the beaten path. This one is really about getting into our downtowns. And I base it also on perhaps some of the editorial that's going on in the magazine and use the advertising to marry that. Go to the next one. I just wanted to give you a snapshot of some of the things that came out of that rebranding. We've all seen these word pieces. No, there's an exact word for that. Thank you. And this was Graham's. And these are the things that folks told us, what they thought about, and what they were familiar with, and all this, just an array of everything that conveyed what Graham was to them. And I'd be happy to send that to you further so you can actually see all the little elements that are in there. You can go on to the next one. In this 2-year period, we've actually created a short-term 3-year strategic plan. It had been a long time since we'd had one, and the purposes of the plan and of the Tourism Development Authority is to oversee the distribution of the occupancy tax in Alamance County and to further the development of travel and tourism throughout the county. And of course, in listening to what happened earlier, that's, you know, a great venture to move forward with. And a little bit later, or just in a couple of minutes, although the tallies discussed nationally in some North Carolina-based information, I will actually bring it down to the Piedmont and Alamance County. You can go to the next screen. These were our Visitor Bureau's objectives when we did the strategy. And so I'm going to read it right from here. And that was to further develop Alamance County as a destination for the purposes of increasing overall appeal and average expenditures, including length of stay by visitors to further drive economic impact, enhance perception of Alamance County as a destination by prospective travelers, persuade more Alamance County destination assets to work more effectively with the Visitors Bureau and facilitate a greater understanding of the value of working with the Visitors Bureau and their strategic role in marketing and developing the destination. Determine how the Tourism Development Authority fund balance should be invested to further the destination promotion enhancement of Alamance County. Strengthen engagement of all visitor economy stakeholders in order to understand their needs and to build the destination they desire. Facilitate greater buy-in to the benefits of a strong visitor economy among community leaders, beginning with stakeholders and area elected officials. And work collaboratively with local governments to address how growth is managed in Alamance County and specifically how it impacts the visitor experience. The next page will highlight the types of marketing and promotion that we do. The funds that we received collected by the occupancy tax, what we received has to be utilized for marketing and promotion. And that includes print, digital, broadcast, public relations, social media, statewide brochure distribution, sponsorships, industry trade shows and partnerships, marketing grants, and familiarization tours. I will make mention that in the fall, mark your calendars, October 8th, there will be one specifically for you all in the community. So that will be coming. We want to get you all out and exploring in some of Alamance County. Occupancy tax collections, there has actually been an increase and has been continuously for several years now in collections from fiscal year 2018, 3.92% over the previous period. We anticipate right now that's being, that was for 2018. This year, we only have the results or funding information through April 30th. So we are expecting that collections will be about up to 5% over the same period last year. So right now they're 5% over the same period last year. We're expecting them to probably match that 3% by once all collections are through for June 30th. So we're still doing well for Alamance County. Next, please. The next slide is our economic impact expenditures. This information is reported by Visit North Carolina. They purchase and work with different companies to get a lot of research. This is Alamance County specific. And so here you have some great numbers. Unfortunately, we won't have 2018 till the fall. So we're always like 2 years or a year behind. So, or of course now I'm reporting it's 2017, but these are the last figures that we have. That direct visitor spending in Alamance County was over $190 million. Payroll associated with tourism jobs was over $32 million. Employment was 1,470 employees. Our state tax receipts for our area in 2017 was 11.21, and you can see our local tax receipts were over $3 million as well, allowing for a tax savings per resident of $90.53. Once the new figures are out by Visit NC, I will make sure to get those out to you as well. But as mentioned, they won't be out until the fall. And this is the regional visitor information I'd love to share with folks. A little bit different than what the tallies mentioned earlier, because we're going to talk about travelers in the Piedmont exclusively. In the information I have, there's much more in-depth, detailed information about our travelers. So at any point, anybody would like to see them, and it helps you make decisions about kind of next steps and what you want to do, please feel free to ask me. 66% of North Carolina visitors travel to the Piedmont region. That consists of 49 counties. And I will get to another element of that in a minute. That's 33.8 million people that traveled to the Piedmont in 2018. 87% of them were domestic visitors, and 10% were on business. Travel to the Piedmont is considered seasonally than other regions, is consistent seasonally. We don't have the big influxes, obviously. It's obvious for the mountains and the coast. They are more seasonal. Overnight visitors to the region spent an average of 3.3 nights. 51% of visitors lodged in a hotel. 43% stayed in a private home. That is not an Airbnb. That is actually staying with family or friends. 3% utilized Airbnb or a VRBO. The average household trip expenditure was $511. The average household overnight visitor expenditure was $634. Day trip parties to the Piedmont spent approximately $211. We get a lot of day trippers here to Alamance County. And we love them. They're here, they're enjoying our area. They are spending their hard-earned dollar here and leaving them in our restaurants and our attractions, gas stations, those, that engine keeps on moving. So when I mentioned earlier about the Piedmont, although to the state, 49 counties are included in that Piedmont area, I belong to a group called the Piedmont Triad Destination Management Organization. There are 11 of us. We are the furthest east county, and it runs up to starts Casville, goes down through Randolph, and swings around all the way out towards Winston-Salem. So we're all in there, 11 counties. Our group has, in the past 2 years, also done a strategic plan and have created a new website that will launch soon, because we all realize that it would be great if we continue to work together. We have a lot of similar assets, and there are a lot of people who are making things in North Carolina. They are creating, and the group has recently trademarked "We Make North Carolina." So in addition to our efforts independently, we have that destination management organization also assisting us to not just come specifically to one county. You have one great thing and you enjoy pottery. Well, we have pottery too. Come here, and we're mapping that out for the visitor to make it easier for them. So I just wanted to let you know on that. And I didn't know if anyone had any other questions. I have some information also, just real quick, about although you all may be getting these figures as well, about our sales tax collections. Those have been increasing as well. And we'd like to think that tourism is a huge part of that. But year over year, in the past few years, fiscal year ending 2017, sales tax collections were over 28 million. At the end of that was the end of 2017. The end of 2018, it was almost 30 million. And as of the end of February, because we're a little bit slower to collect those, we're already at 20.7. So we're excited to see the growth in Alamance County, and we are very grateful for our community leaders who are investing in the downtowns and making it a place not just for the locals, because the locals have to have a buy-in to create that vibe to get additional visitors to come into our area, but bringing folks in like Mary, who are also striving to make the communities a better place. I thank you all for that.
So you wouldn't mind answering a few questions or comments?
If I can answer,
Melody,
I will.
please.
I think have a couple. On one of the slides previously, you talked about grants, and what kind of grants are available through CVB?
Right now, we've been putting out one grant a year. We try to do two, but it ends up kind of catching up to itself. And they are can be up to $10,000 grants. They do have to be marketing based. In fact, the Graham Historical Museum received one of those grants this year, and we're still waiting to see what's coming out, but it's supposed to be a sign, so that's what we're waiting for to get that going. But applications are put in. They usually are out in late fall, and each year we're getting more and more submissions, but they are all tourism marketing based.
I have one more question. It's just curious. In all the materials that you have listed with your new branding and logo, it says Burlington, Mebane, Elon, Graham, and Saxapahaw. Can you tell me why that in that particular order?
No reason. That is how the company came out and put it and figured that is how it structured on that logo. Yeah. It also allows for opportunity because those are the main we say cities, but we say towns and villages that folks are exploring. But there's room for others, like let's say Haw River. So some of the development that is now going on there might be a few years down the road, all can be manipulated there. So, and if anyone ever wants to utilize our logo and just drop Mebane, you're welcome to do that too. Or Mebane or Graham or, any one of those independently, they're welcome to do that as well.
Just two comments. I'll thank Grace for being a very active member of our business association here in Graham. That's not been the case historically with the county's representative, and also she does a great email the county does. It comes for all the events in the area. Is that bi-weekly or
The
weekly?
small surprises?
Yeah.
It is supposed to be weekly,
Okay.
Friday. I'm actually down a staff member, so last week I missed it, or the week before I missed it. So they are going out weekly, and it's a weekly email that initially was sent out just to hotels so that they would put out to the front desk and let folks know what's going on the weekend. But we started to get more folks who wanted to know that information to give it to their guests or shop owners. So that list has grown. At this point, it highlights some of the current weekend that we're in all the way through the following weekend. It doesn't include everything sometimes, but there's a note on it that says, please revert back to our website. So.
Yeah, and that's a neat, if you're not subscribed to that, that's a cool thing.
Thank you. You do have to let me know that if you want that.
No questions. Please.
I do have a question. So tell me about the selection process of the businesses and restaurants that'll be identified when people come in or within the book as well.
Well, previously, if you may never have seen our previous visitor guide, it didn't include downtowns. It included just attractions, recreation, some maps. And because of the position that we took with this brand and the messaging, we said we're putting our downtowns in there. And so we had to look at who was in business at that time and in the downtown pretty much exclusively, and select everybody who was in there. Some folks aren't in there because they may not have been open yet. Some things actually, as we started, said opening soon, and as more and more time came up, we noticed we couldn't have that anymore, so then we had to take that out, and there were some changes back and forth. We've been extremely fortunate this year with the number of visitor guides that have been requested by us, by the welcome centers. We have distributed over 10,000, I believe, right now. And so we can see that when the next time we're going to do a major reprint, look at some new photography. There's some new businesses in town. For Graham, we have Steve's that's in place now, and Forgotten Road Ales that's in place. And I think those are maybe the only ones that are missing. And by then we may have somebody new.
Okay.
So yeah, we try to keep it compact there. There's been, questions about how do we get in there? Is it a pay to play?
Yes.
And it's not. What we're doing is creating that destination, and we have mentioned in there for additional information, just go to the website. We've got to keep it as those unique selling points of where should you go, get the catch in, and let them explore from there.
So business owners that find that they may be absent in some of the brochures, is it, especially if they're located in the downtowns, is it okay? How does that work? Do they call you and talk to you? Or do they make a request?
If they're a tourism related business, so you're not going to find any service industries in there, but if you are a restaurant,
yes,
if you're a retail shop or attraction, you should be listed in there.
Okay.
So are there errors? Yes. As some have been pointed out, I just make a note for the next time.
Okay.
But they should be on the website.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have we requested these for City Hall? Have we requested them for the museum also?
I think the museum has them.
Did we
Yeah.
also do the City Hall and
Sure.
pass them out at City Hall? That'd be all right. Okay. Very good report. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. And let me go to Melody. Good job with the Historical Museum getting that grant up there. That's in process right now. Okay, I want to skip to number 6, issues not on tonight's agenda, and I'll poll everyone, and then we'll go into the closed session. Bob, have you got anything to add for tonight? Aaron?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Melody?
No, sir.
Griffin?
I did want to mention one thing that in light of an email that we received today, that the the small area downtown plan is being, the way the email was worded, being released to the public next week. I'd like to state the preference that, just for perception's sake, that is a recommendation, that it is a draft that we get back next week, that will go through revisions and a revisionary process. It's just a first stab at what they're sending back to us, and that's not defined yet as to what it actually is or can be.
Okay. Skip, anything? Lee?
No, I'm good.
Frankie,
Thank
you got anything?
Yeah,
else?
sir.
With that, anyone from the floor got anything to add? Mary, come up, please, if you got. You're recorded, you know that. Yes, ma'am.
Alexa wanted me to share with mayor and council that the facade grant cycle has now been opened.
Okay.
And that there's more detail on the website about that.
Thank you. With that, we'll go into closed session pursuant to the terms of North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A6 to consider the performance of the city manager. I need a motion to do that.
So move.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to call the meeting back to order.
So moved. Do we open?
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we discussed the performance of our city manager. I'll read a statement. The entire council appreciates the city manager for his hard work during this past year. The past year was a difficult year, especially in personnel, funding, and the workload for our employees. Upon request of the city manager, the council will allow a 3% pay raise for himself to be divided proportionally to the employees in the pay grades of 10 and 12. Those pay grades would include sanitation collector, general maintenance worker 1, general maintenance worker 2, plant maintenance mechanic 1, police traffic enforcement, and utility maintenance worker. Now, poll the staff, the council. Melody, you want to say anything?
I would just like to say I am a fan of Frankie Manus. I believe that we have one of the best city managers anywhere in the state of North Carolina, and I've worked with several in my career, and I don't think we could do much better. I think that we need to appreciate the fact that he has such a great deal of integrity, and in every situation tries to do the right thing. And I think that's incredibly important, regardless of how difficult it is for him. I think that's a personality trait that we are so blessed to have. And I believe that tonight our decision is based on honoring Frankie Manus, honoring his decision.
Thank you, ma'am. Griffin.
I echo Melody's sentiments, and I commend Frankie for his job, the work he does, seen and unseen. You may have some managers that do well with infrastructure and some that do well with personnel or public relations, but I think we've got a package with Frankie that I'm proud of, and particularly this selfless gesture with the pay raise. I think that's an important thing to say.
Sir.
I'll be very brief. Frankie had a lot of trials and tribulations this year, but you stood tall and faced them down. And the main thing is your unselfishness, your gesture of what you've done. I think that speaks highly, and I think it describes it all. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Frankie, I just want to reiterate that you've always been very responsive. You've always been there to handle our requests, especially me in particular. I've talked to other people who speak very favorable about how you respond and the job that you do. I look forward to the future of working with you. I love the economic development part of the equation that you seem to bring to the table, and how eager you are to continue to grow in the right way and the best way for us. And I look forward to that. And I just want to say, in regards to this, that this is a very generous request, and it's an honor to approve it.
And I agree with everything y'all said, except I do want to add that you're right. Frankie's been very easy to work with and easy to ask for a response. He's always there for us, and we appreciate him every day. I do anyway. Does anybody else want to say anything? Okay. With that being said, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.